The morning started like any other day on orbital station Terra 9. Commander Jiwan was drinking her third cup of coffee when the alarm went off. She put down her cup and walked quickly to the command center. The screen showed something impossible. A ship had appeared out of nowhere right next to the station. How did they get so close? Jiwan asked. Her voice was calm, but her hand moved to the emergency button. I don't know, Commander, said Officer Minho from his station. They just appeared. No warning, no energy signature, nothing. The alien ship was beautiful. It looked like it was made of crystal and light. It glowed with soft blue colors that moved across its surface like water. Nothing like the metal and steel of human ships. This was something else. Something advanced. A message came through. The voice was strange, like music and wind combined. Greetings, humans of Terra 9. We are the Vexari. We come in peace. We request permission to board your station. Jiwan looked at Minho. He shrugged. First contact with aliens. This was big. This was history. She took a deep breath. Permission granted. Docking Bay 3. 20 minutes later, Jiwan stood in the docking bay with a security team. Engineer Minho stood beside her. He always stayed calm, which was good because Jiwan felt anything but calm right now. The airlock opened with a hiss. 3 aliens walked through. They were tall, maybe 7 feet. Their bodies were covered in armor that looked like crystal. It reflected light in strange ways. Their faces were hard to see through their helmets, but Jiwan could make out large eyes and no visible mouth. The one in front stepped forward. His armor had gold markings. I am Ambassador Thalrex of the Vexari Empire. We have traveled far to meet you. Welcome to our station, Jiwan said. She tried to sound confident. I am Commander Jiwan. This is Engineer Minho. We are honored by your visit. Thalrex made a gesture that might have been a bow. We have been watching your species for some time. You have recently begun to explore beyond your home system. This is an important step. They moved to a conference room. It felt strange to Jiwan. Here they were, sitting across from aliens as if this was a normal business meeting, but nothing about this was normal. Your species is young, Thalrex continued. You have much to learn about the galaxy. There are dangers out there. Hostile species, pirates. Worse things. We can defend ourselves, Minho said quietly. Thalrex made a sound that might have been a laugh. With your primitive weapons? We have seen your technology. Chemical rockets, metal bullets, simple nuclear devices. These things are ancient history for most species. Jiwan felt her jaw tighten. Primitive? Their technology had taken humans to the stars. But she stayed quiet. Let him talk. That is why we have come, Thalrex said. He signaled to one of his companions. The alien placed a long case on the table. We wish to offer you a gift, a token of friendship between our peoples. The case opened. Inside was a weapon. It looked organic, like it had been grown rather than built. Blue energy pulsed along its length. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. This is a Vexari plasma rifle, Thalrex said with pride in his voice. With these weapons, my people have conquered 40 star systems. We have defeated enemies that would destroy you in moments, and now we offer this technology to you. Minho reached for the weapon. Thalrex nodded. The engineer picked it up carefully, turning it over in his hands. He looked at it from every angle. His face showed nothing. It's light, Minho said. Yes, much lighter than your crude metal weapons. More elegant. More efficient. What does it fire? Jiwan asked. Superheated plasma, Thalrex explained. Matter in its 4th state heated to millions of degrees. It can melt through any armor. Burn through solid steel. Nothing can withstand it. Minho nodded slowly. Interesting. What's the effective range? Effective range? Thalrex seemed confused by the question. Yes, how far can it shoot accurately? Minho asked. His voice was patient, like he was talking to a student. 300 meters. At that distance, it can still penetrate most armor. The room went very quiet. Jiwan looked at Minho. Minho looked at Jiwan. Something passed between them without words. 300 meters, Minho repeated slowly. He placed the plasma rifle back on the table very carefully. Is there a problem? Thalrex asked. For the first time, he sounded uncertain. Jiwan leaned back in her chair. She chose her words carefully. Ambassador Thalrex, we appreciate your generous offer. Truly. But I need to ask you something. Our standard infantry rifle, the one every soldier carries, has an effective range of 2,000 meters. Our sniper rifles can hit targets at 4,000 meters. In space combat, our railguns can strike targets thousands of kilometers away. She paused, letting that sink in. Thalrex's body language changed. He became very still. So my question is this, Ji-Won continued. Why would we want to downgrade? Thalrex stared at her, then at Minho, then back at the plasma rifle on the table. His confidence had vanished. 2,000 meters? That's impossible. No handheld weapon can maintain accuracy at such distances. Minho smiled. It wasn't a mean smile, just patient. Ours do. We've been working on ballistics for centuries. Rifling, aerodynamics, gyroscopic stability. We've gotten pretty good at it, but these are plasma weapons, Thalrex said. He sounded confused now. Advanced technology. Energy-based warfare. Your weapons are just metal and explosives. Metal and explosives that work, Ji-Won said simply. Metal and explosives that hit what we aim at from very far away. The meeting had taken an unexpected turn. Thalrex had come to offer charity to primitive humans. Instead, he was beginning to realize that maybe, just maybe, the humans weren't as primitive as he thought. And that thought made him very uncomfortable indeed. Ambassador Thalrex did not sleep well that night. The meeting had not gone as planned. Not at all. He lay in his quarters on the Vixari ship, staring at the ceiling, replaying the conversation in his mind. 300 meters versus 2,000 meters. The numbers haunted him. By morning, his confusion had turned to anger. These humans were lying. They had to be. No primitive species could have weapons more advanced than the Vixari. It was impossible. He would prove them wrong. Thalrex sent a message to Commander Ji-Won. He demanded a demonstration. He wanted to see these supposedly superior human weapons with his own eyes. The message was polite, but there was an edge to it. A challenge. Ji-Won read the message and smiled. She had expected this. She contacted Captain Hana, the station's weapons officer. Prepare the testing range. We're going to show our guests what we can do. The testing range was located on a small asteroid near the station. It was a bare rock in space covered with old targets and blast marks. Humans used it to test new weapons and train soldiers. Today it would serve a different purpose. 2 shuttles landed on the asteroid. The first carried the Vixari delegation. The second carried Commander Ji-Won, Engineer Minho, Captain Hana, and Scientist Doyun. The humans wore simple pressure suits. The Vixari wore their crystal armor, which seemed to glow even in the harsh sunlight. Thank you for agreeing to this demonstration, Thalrex said. His voice was formal, stiff. I am eager to see your weapons in action. Of course, Ji-Won replied. Captain Hana will conduct the demonstration. She's our best. Hana stepped forward. She was shorter than the other humans, but there was something about her that commanded respect. She moved with confidence. She carried a rifle that looked plain compared to the beautiful Vixari plasma weapon. Just black metal and synthetic materials, simple, boring. This is our standard M47 combat rifle, Hana said. Fires a 7mm tungsten core round at 1,200 meters per second. Effective range 2,000 meters. Maximum range 4,000 meters. She pointed to a target in the distance. It was a metal plate 0.5 meter wide. That target is 1,500 meters away. Thalrex looked through his helmet's enhanced vision. He could barely see the target. It was a small dot against the gray rock. Surely you don't expect to hit that? Hana didn't answer. She just raised the rifle, aimed for 3 seconds, and fired. The recoil was minimal. The sound in the thin atmosphere was strange, more of a crack than a bang. The target rang like a bell. A perfect hit dead center. Thalrex's companions made sounds of surprise. The ambassador himself said nothing, but his body language spoke volumes. He was impressed, though he tried to hide it. Again, Hana said calmly. She fired 4 more times in quick succession. Each shot hit the target. Each shot within centimeters of the others. Acceptable, Thalrex admitted. But this is a rifle. Infantry weapon. What about vehicle-mounted weapons? Ship weapons? The real tools of war? Ji-Won nodded to Doyun. The scientist stepped forward with a tablet computer. We anticipated that question. Captain Hana, if you would prepare the railgun. Hana walked to a platform where a much larger weapon sat. It was mounted on a tripod with thick cables running to a power generator. The weapon itself looked brutally simple. Just a long barrel and a magnetic accelerator system. This is a Mark 7 railgun, Doyun explained. Smaller version of what we mount on ships. It uses electromagnetic force to accelerate a projectile. The projectile is solid tungsten, very dense, very hard. How fast does it fire this projectile? Asked one of Thalrex's companions. 7 kilometers per second, Doyen said casually. The Vexari fell silent. 7 kilometers per second. That was fast. Very fast, watch, Hannah said. She pointed to 3 targets set up in a line. They were reinforced steel plates, each 1 meter thick. Behind them, about a kilometer away, was a small asteroid. All 3 targets and the asteroid behind them. She activated the railgun. The power generator hummed. Lights flickered on the weapon. Then with a sound like thunder, it fired. The tungsten projectile moved too fast to see. One moment the targets were intact. The next moment they had holes through them. Perfect round holes. And the asteroid behind them now had a crater where the projectile had finally stopped. The Vexari stood frozen. Thalrex walked slowly toward the targets. He examined the holes. The metal was still hot, glowing slightly around the edges. The holes went straight through. No deformation. No tearing. Just perfect punctures. This is impossible, he whispered. The energy required. The precision. It's actually quite simple, Minho said. He had been quiet until now. We take an object. We make it go very fast in a straight line. It hits what we pointed at. Basic physics, but the plasma weapons, Thalrex said. He sounded confused, almost hurt. They're more advanced. They use contained energy, matter in its 4th state. Plasma dissipates, Doyen explained. His voice was gentle, like a teacher explaining something to a struggling student. As it travels through air or space, it loses cohesion. The magnetic fields that contain it weaken. By 300 meters, most of the energy is gone. That's why your weapons have such limited range. But a solid projectile, Minho added, doesn't dissipate. Once it's moving, it keeps moving. Newton's first law. An object in motion stays in motion. We just throw rocks really, really fast. Thalrex turned to look at the humans. Really look at them. These people in their simple pressure suits with their plain weapons. He had thought them primitive. Backward. Species to be pitied and helped. He had been wrong. Your plasma weapons are beautiful, Jiwan said. Her voice was not unkind. They're elegant, sophisticated, but they're designed for the kind of warfare you fight. Close quarters. Shipboarding actions. Urban combat. We fight different wars, Hannah continued. We learned to kill each other from very far away. We got good at it. Very good, Thalrex nodded slowly. He understood now. The humans hadn't been left behind in technological development. They had simply taken a different path. A path the Vexari had abandoned millennia ago. A path that led to weapons that could strike across vast distances with devastating accuracy. I came here to offer you a gift, Thalrex said quietly. I thought you needed our help. Our protection. You offered friendship, Jiwan replied. That gift still stands, doesn't it? Thalrex looked at her for a long moment. Then he made that gesture again, the one that might have been a bow. Yes, it does. Perhaps more sincerely now than before. As they walked back to the shuttles, Thalrex's mind was racing. He needed to report this to the Vexari Council. The humans were not the simple species they appeared to be. They were dangerous. Not because they were hostile, but because they were competent. Very competent. And that changed everything. The observation deck was quiet. Earth hung in the viewport, blue and white and beautiful. Ambassador Thalrex stood there with a glass of something the humans called whiskey. He had never tried alcohol before. The Vexari had eliminated such things from their culture long ago. But tonight, he felt like he needed it. Admiral Kyung-ho entered the room. He was older than the other humans Thalrex had met. Gray hair, lines on his face, eyes that had seen many things. He carried his own glass of whiskey. Without asking, he sat down next to the ambassador. Beautiful, isn't it? Kyung-ho said, gesturing to Earth. Yes, Thalrex replied. Very beautiful, and very humbling. Kyung-ho took a sip of his drink. Humbling? How so? Thalrex turned to face him. I came here thinking I was helping primitive children. I was going to teach you how to defend yourselves, how to survive in a dangerous galaxy. I was so certain of my superiority. And now? Kyung-ho asked. Now I realize I was the primitive one. Not in technology, but in understanding. The door opened. Researcher Hyejin walked in. She was young, brilliant, and direct in a way that sometimes made people uncomfortable. She carried a tablet and a determined expression. Admiral, Ambassador, she said with a nod. I've been analyzing the data from today's demonstration. I thought you both might want to see this. She sat down and placed the tablet on the table. Graphs and numbers filled the screen. The Vexari plasma rifle is actually quite impressive, she began. Within its optimal range, it's devastating. The energy output is incredible. But, Thalrex said, he knew there was a but coming, but the energy efficiency drops dramatically after 200 meters. By 300 meters, you're losing 70% of your initial power. The magnetic containment fields can't maintain cohesion over distance. Thalrex nodded. We know this. It is the limitation of plasma-based weapons. All species face this problem. All species except us, Hyejin said. Because we don't use plasma. We use kinetic energy. And kinetic energy doesn't care about distance. She pulled up another graph. A tungsten round from our railgun maintains 98% of its kinetic energy over 10,000 meters. In space, where there's no air resistance, it can travel indefinitely. I don't understand, Thalrex said. Your technology is so simple. How can simple be better? Kyung-ho laughed. It wasn't a mocking laugh, just amused. Simple? These weapons represent centuries of refinement, thousands of hours of research, millions of rounds fired in testing. We've perfected the art of throwing things. But you have no energy shields, Thalrex said. No plasma arrays. No quantum field generators. These are the hallmarks of advanced civilization. Don't need them, Hyejin said bluntly. Energy shields are great against energy weapons, but against a solid projectile moving at 7 kilometers per second, they're useless. The projectile just punches through. What about your ships? Thalrex asked. I've seen the scans. No energy shielding, just metal armor. Very thick metal armor. Kyung-ho grinned. Not just metal. Diamond composite. We take carbon, compress it under extreme pressure, and create a crystalline structure stronger than anything nature makes. Then we layer it with ceramic and metal alloys. The result is armor that can take tremendous punishment. And when something does get through, Hyejin added, we have redundant systems. Compartmentalization, damage control teams. We assume we're going to get hit. We design accordingly. Thalrex was beginning to understand. The humans had approached warfare from a completely different direction. The Vexari and other species had focused on energy-based weapons and defenses. They had created elegant, sophisticated systems, but those systems had limitations. Humans had stuck with the basics. Kinetic energy, solid projectiles, thick armor. They had refined these basics to an art form, and in doing so they had created weapons that bypassed all the sophisticated defenses other species relied on. Why didn't you develop energy weapons? Thalrex asked. Surely you explored the possibility. Oh, we did, Kyung-ho said. Lasers, particle beams, plasma cannons, we tested them all, and we found that for the same energy investment, a railgun was more effective, better range, better penetration, more reliable. We use lasers for point defense, Hyejin explained. They're great for shooting down missiles or small craft. Speed of light means they hit instantly. But for ship-to-ship combat, kinetic weapons win every time. This is fascinating, Thalrex said, and terrifying. My people thought we were bringing you into the galactic community as junior partners, species that would need our guidance and protection. And instead, Kyung-ho prompted, instead I discover that you are already more dangerous than most species in the galaxy. Not because you are aggressive, but because you are effective. There is a difference. Hyejin looked uncomfortable. We're not looking for conflict, we just want to explore, make friends, learn from other species. I know, Thalrex said, and that may be the most interesting thing about you. You have this capacity for violence, this efficiency in warfare, but you choose peace. That is rare. Kyung-ho refilled his glass. We've been fighting each other for thousands of years. We got very good at it. Too good. Eventually, we realized that we could either destroy ourselves or learn to work together. We chose the latter. But you kept the weapons, Thalrex observed. Just because we want peace doesn't mean we're naive, Kyung-ho said. The universe is dangerous. You said so yourself. We intend to survive. Thalrex stood up and walked back to the viewport. Earth turned slowly below. Billions of humans down there, all of them part of a species that had weaponized physics itself, not with exotic particles or quantum mechanics, but with simple, brutal efficiency. "I need to report this to my government," he said. "They need to know the truth about humanity." "What will you tell them?" Yejin asked. Thalrex turned to face them. "The truth. That we came to offer you our weapons as a gift. That you politely declined because our weapons are inferior to yours. That humanity is not the primitive species we thought. That they are in fact more dangerous than most civilizations we have encountered." "That sounds scary," Yejin said. "It is scary," Thalrex agreed. "But I will also tell them that humans seem to prefer peace. That they are curious and eager to learn. That they might be powerful allies instead of dangerous enemies." Kyung-ho raised his glass. "To allies, then. May we learn from each other." Thalrex raised his own glass. The whiskey burned his throat, but it was not unpleasant. "To allies," he agreed. "And to the humility of understanding that simple does not mean primitive, and elegant does not mean superior." The Galactic Council chamber was enormous. It had to be, to hold representatives from 247 different species. The chamber was a sphere, with seating arranged in concentric rings. At the center floated a holographic display that could be seen from any angle. Today, that display showed Earth, a small blue planet on the edge of the galaxy. Until recently, nobody had paid much attention to it. That was about to change. Ambassador Thalrex stood at the speaker's platform. He had prepared his report carefully. What he was about to say would change how the galaxy viewed humanity, perhaps forever. High Counselor Vexnar, an ancient being who had led the council for 2 centuries, gestured for silence. "Ambassador Thalrex, you have requested this emergency session to discuss the human species. Please proceed." Thalrex activated his presentation. Images of human weapons appeared in the holographic display. Simple mechanical things. No glowing energy fields. No exotic particles. Just metal and magnets. "Counselors," Thalrex began, "I traveled to Earth expecting to find a primitive species. One that would benefit from our guidance and technology. I was wrong." Whispers spread through the chamber. Species in the gallery exchanged confused glances. Wrong? How could the mighty Vexari be wrong about a species that barely had interstellar capability? "The humans possess weapons technology that surpasses our own in several critical areas," Thalrex continued. "Their kinetic weapons have effective ranges 10 times greater than our plasma rifles. Their ship-mounted railguns can strike targets at distances that render our weapons useless." The whispers became louder. One delegate, a Krillian with 4 arms and blue skin, stood up. "Impossible! Their ships don't even have energy shields. They use crude metal armor." "That crude armor," Thalrex replied calmly, "is diamond composite. It can withstand impacts that would overwhelm most energy shields, and because they don't rely on shields, their ships have no power drain issues. No shield generators to target, just solid, reliable protection." The display changed. It now showed a comparison chart. On one side, the energy efficiency of plasma weapons. On the other, the energy efficiency of kinetic weapons. The difference was stark. "They have optimized a technology we abandoned millennia ago," Thalrex said. "While we pursued energy-based warfare, they perfected kinetic warfare. The result is weapons that are simpler, more reliable, and in many cases more effective." In the human delegation area, Ambassador Somin sat quietly. She was the first human to address the Galactic Council, appointed just weeks ago. She had not expected her first council meeting to be about human weapons. But she was prepared. Next to her sat Lieutenant Junho, a military attaché. He was younger, with the bearing of someone who had seen combat. He leaned over and whispered, "Should I be worried that the first thing the galaxy wants to discuss is how good we are at killing things?" Soman smiled slightly. "Just be ready. They're going to have questions." Sure enough, Vexnar turned toward the human delegation. "Ambassador Soman, would you care to respond to these claims?" Soman stood. All eyes in the chamber turned to her. 247 species all staring at the human. She took a breath and began. "Everything Ambassador Thalrex has said is accurate. Our weapons do have longer range than most galactic standard arms. This is not because we are more advanced. but because we focused on different things. She gestured to Junho, who stood and activated his own presentation. Videos began playing. Humans throughout history, ancient warriors with bows and arrows, medieval soldiers with crossbows, musketeers with early firearms, modern soldiers with advanced rifles. For our entire history, Soman explained, humans have been throwing things at each other: rocks, spears, arrows, bullets. We have spent thousands of years getting better at this one simple task, making something go fast in a straight line and hit what we aim at. Junho took over. We didn't choose kinetic weapons because we couldn't develop energy weapons. We chose them because they work better for our needs. Reliability, simplicity, effectiveness. These are what matter in combat. A Thaxian delegate, a being that looked like a walking plant, spoke up. But surely energy weapons are more civilized, more elegant? They represent advancement beyond primitive projectile weapons. Junho's expression hardened. There is nothing elegant about war. There is nothing civilized about killing. Energy weapons may look more advanced, but that doesn't make them better. A soldier with our rifle can engage an enemy from 2 kilometers away. Your plasma rifle needs to be within 300 meters. Which weapon would you rather have? Silence. The Thaxian sat down, having no response. Vexnar leaned forward in his seat. Ambassador Soman, many species here are concerned. Your weapons capabilities suggest a species focused on warfare. Should we be worried? Soman met his gaze steadily. Counselor, we are not a warrior species. We are a survivor species. We developed effective weapons because we needed them. First to survive against predators, then to survive against each other. Eventually, we learned that cooperation was better than conflict. But we never forgot how to defend ourselves. You speak of defense, another delegate said, but weapons of such power are also tools of aggression. Any weapon can be used for aggression, Junho replied. The question is not what weapons a species has, but what they choose to do with them. Humanity has been unified for over a century. We have not had a major war in that time. We come to the galaxy seeking knowledge and friendship, not conquest. But if pushed, Soman added quietly, we can defend ourselves. That should not be a threat. That should be reassurance. We are not victims waiting to be protected. We are capable partners who can stand on our own. Thalrex stood again. If I may, Counselor Vexnar, I would like to add something. Vexnar nodded. I went to Earth expecting to find a species that needed our help, Thalrex said. Instead, I found a species that could help us. Their approach to technology is different from ours, but no less valid. Perhaps more valid in some ways. They have lessons to teach us if we are wise enough to listen. He turned to face the council. I propose that instead of viewing humanity as a threat, we view them as an opportunity. An opportunity to learn from a species that took a different path to the stars. Vexnar was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke. The council will take your words under advisement, Ambassador Thalrex. And Ambassador Soman, welcome to the Galactic Council. I suspect your presence here will be educational for all of us. As the session ended, delegates filed out of the chamber. Many cast curious glances at the human delegation. Some looked nervous. Others looked thoughtful. A few looked intrigued. Junho leaned over to Soman. That went better than expected. Soman nodded. For now. But the real work starts tomorrow. We need to show them that we're more than just our weapons. That humanity has more to offer than the ability to throw rocks really fast. She paused, then smiled. Even if we are very, very good at it. 6 months had passed since the council meeting. Research Station Unity floated in neutral space, halfway between human and Vexari territory. It was a symbol of cooperation, a place where 2 different species could work together and learn from each other. General Taijin walked through the corridors of the station. He was not what most aliens expected when they met a human general. He was quiet, thoughtful, more interested in engineering than warfare. But his record spoke for itself. He had commanded the defense of Mars during the resource wars. He had designed half the weapon systems currently used by human forces. Today, he was here to witness something historic. The first joint human Vexari weapons test, not a competition this time, a collaboration. In the main laboratory, Engineer Minji was making final adjustments to a prototype. She was young for such an important position, barely 30 years old. But she had a gift for seeing how different technologies could work together. That gift had brought her here. Beside her worked a Vexari scientist named Kalseth. He was older, more experienced, but he had learned to respect the human's insights. At first he had been skeptical. How could someone so young teach him anything? But Minji had proven herself quickly. She saw patterns he missed, made connections he hadn't considered. "I think we're ready," Minji said. She stepped back from the workbench. On it sat a rifle unlike any that had existed before. The barrel was human design, built for kinetic projectiles, but the power system was Vexari, using their advanced energy generation, and surrounding the barrel was a network of magnetic fields that shouldn't have been possible. "The energy shield integration is stable?" Kalseth asked. His voice carried hope and nervousness in equal measure. "Stable," Minji confirmed. "Your energy fields protect the barrel from heat stress. That means we can fire faster, longer, without degradation. And the field generators are powered by your plasma cells, which have triple the energy density of our batteries. And our plasma containment technology," Kalseth added, "is now mounted on your railgun platform. The combination gives us effective range of 5 kilometers, with the stopping power of plasma at close range." Ambassador Thalrex entered the laboratory. With him was General Tajin. The two had become unlikely friends over the past months. They shared a love of problem-solving and a healthy respect for each other's capabilities. "Is it ready?" Tajin asked. "Ready for testing," Minji said. She tried to sound confident, but there was excitement in her voice. This was her design, her vision. If it worked, it would change everything. They moved to the testing range. This one was different from the asteroid range where Thalrex had first seen human weapons. This range was inside the station, carefully controlled and monitored. Safety was paramount when testing experimental weapons. Minji mounted the prototype on a test stand. Targets were positioned at various distances. Some were standard steel plates. Others were protected by Vexari energy shields. Still others were covered in the diamond composite armor humans used. "First test," Minji announced. "Standard kinetic round at 2,000 meters," she fired. The sound was different from a normal railgun, sharper, cleaner. The projectile struck the target dead center. Perfect accuracy. Second test. Plasma-enhanced round at 300 meters. This time, the projectile glowed as it flew. The Vexari plasma technology created a superheated envelope around the tungsten core. When it hit, the target didn't just have a hole. It had a crater of melted metal. Thalrex's eyes widened. "You combined them. Not just one or the other, but both at once." "That was Minji's idea," Kalseth said proudly. "Why choose between kinetic and energy when you can have both?" "Third test," Minji continued. Full power shot against shielded target. This was the important one. The Vexari energy shield was the strongest defense technology in the galaxy. Nothing human-made had ever penetrated one reliably. But this weapon wasn't just human-made anymore, Minji fired. The plasma-wrapped projectile hit the shield. For a moment, the shield glowed brilliantly as it tried to disperse the energy. But the kinetic force behind the projectile was too much. The shield flickered and failed. The projectile punched through and destroyed the target behind it. Silence filled the testing range. Everyone stared at the ruined target. "It works," Taejun said quietly. "You actually did it." Thalrex walked over to examine the shield generator. It was intact but overloaded. "This changes everything," he said. "Energy shields have been the primary defense in galactic warfare for millennia. This weapon makes them obsolete." "Not obsolete," Minji corrected gently. "Just not enough by themselves. You'll need shields and armor now. Defense in depth like we use," Kalseth nodded. "And offensive systems will need to combine energy and kinetic elements. No single approach will dominate anymore." They moved to a conference room to discuss the results. Taejin pulled up tactical simulations on a holographic display. "If we integrate this technology into ship-mounted weapons, the strategic implications are enormous. Both our peoples would need to upgrade their entire defense doctrine," Thalrex added. "But more importantly, so would everyone else in the galaxy. This technology gives whoever has it a significant advantage. That's why we need to share it," Minji said. All eyes turned to her. "Not hoard it. Share it with the Council. Make it available to all species." "That seems unwise," Kalseth said slowly. "This gives us power. Why give that away?" "Because power hoarded is power that creates enemies," Taejin replied. He understood what Minji was suggesting. "If only we have this technology, every other species will fear us. We'll want to take it from us. But if everyone has it, then it's just the new standard. No advantage. No threat. And, Minji added with a grin, if we're the ones who give it away freely, we're not conquerors. We're teachers. Benefactors, that's much better for our reputation. Thalrex made a sound that might have been laughter. You humans, you turned down our gift of weapons because they were inferior. Now you create superior weapons and want to give them to everyone. You are very strange. Strange, Taejun agreed, but practical. We didn't come to the stars to dominate. We came to explore, to learn, to make friends. Hard to make friends when everyone is afraid of you. Over the next few weeks, they refined the design, made it simpler, easier to manufacture, created detailed specifications that any species with basic industrial capability could follow. They tested it hundreds of times, making sure it was safe and reliable. When they finally presented it to the Galactic Council, the response was mixed. Some species were grateful. Others were suspicious. A few were angry that their military advantages were being erased, but gradually understanding spread. The humans and Vexari had proven something important. They had shown that cooperation produced better results than competition. That sharing knowledge made everyone stronger, not weaker. That different approaches to technology could complement each other instead of conflicting. 2 years later, Minji stood on the observation deck of Research Station Unity. The station had grown. More species had joined the collaboration. More laboratories. More projects. The station had become a symbol of what the galaxy could achieve when species worked together. Thalrex joined her at the viewport. Thinking about the future? He asked. Thinking about the past, Minji replied. You came to Earth offering us weapons as charity? We said no thanks. Now look at us, building weapons together. Better weapons than either of us could make alone. You taught us something important, Thalrex said. That advancement isn't about complexity. It's about effectiveness. Your primitive kinetic weapons were more advanced than our plasma rifles because they worked better. And you taught us something too, Minji said. That our way wasn't the only way. That we could learn from others. That combining different approaches creates something better than either alone. Thalrex looked out at the stars. My people thought we were being generous by offering to share our weapons. We didn't realize that humans had something better to share. Not weapons, but the willingness to learn, to adapt, to cooperate. Those are the real tools of civilization. And you're very, very good at them. He paused. Though I suppose throwing rocks at high speed helped too. Minji laughed. Yeah, that part definitely helped.